My name is Leo. One minute, I was coding on hour 72 of a brutal crunch week. The next, I was dead from burnout. Now, I'm a baby Arctic fox, and I've woken up in the middle of Ethelgard Academy's star student's private bathroom, watching her shower. Through the steam, her impossibly beautiful face leaned in close, but her eyes held a chilling, obsessive glint. "Leo," she whispered, "you belong to me. Only me." I was so terrified, I nearly wet myself. In my head, a frantic digital alarm blared. Anchor emotional state critical. Stabilize host immediately or face termination. I didn't hesitate. I stuck out my tongue and licked her fingers. Me, a grown man, forced to play the part of a sycophantic little pet to a beautiful psycho just to stay alive. The soft cascade of warm water felt like a gentle hand pulling my scattered consciousness out of an endless dark. I struggled to open my eyes. Steam, so thick and white it was like being smothered in cotton. A cloying fragrance, a mix of orchids and something uniquely feminine, assaulted my nostrils, making the hair on my arms stand up. Where was I? Heaven? I distinctly remember my heart giving out at my desk after a 3-day coding marathon. Did the universe see my pathetic life and decide to start my afterlife with a deluxe package? I shook my head, trying to clear the fog. And that's when I froze. Framed in my vision wasn't a hand, but a fluffy Snow White paw. It was delicate, with tiny pink pads that looked soft and new. My brain short-circuited. I scrambled to look down at the rest of my body. A coat of sleek, white fur. A big, bushy tail swishing restlessly behind me. 4 stumpy little legs planted on a cool, smooth marble floor. I'd become a fox? A cub, from the looks of it, barely weaned. Boom. A flood of memories that weren't mine surged into my mind. Name, Leo species. Arctic spirit fox juvenile. Status, familiar to Selena Blackwood, scion of Ethelgard Academy bond. Symbiotic link, shared prosperity, shared fate. My name was Leo, yes, but what the hell was the rest of that? Before I could even process the absurdity, a cold, mechanical voice echoed in my thoughts. Ding. Soul integration complete. Emotional anchor system activated. Primary directive. Ensure the survival of your anchor, Selena Blackwood. Beginner's tutorial. As her bonded familiar, you must constantly monitor your anchor's emotional state. Any psychological breakdown on her part could result in your immediate termination. Holy crap. The curse had barely formed in my mind when a slender hand parted the steam in front of me. A face, so beautiful it defied description, appeared out of the mist. Skin like porcelain, with perfectly arched brows. Her almond-shaped eyes were sharp and cool, long lashes beaded with tiny water droplets. She was close, so close I could smell that fatally sweet scent clinging to her skin. And her body. My gaze drifted downward, and I felt a rush of heat to my head. Selena Blackwood, my supposed owner, was soaking in a massive marble tub, completely naked. And I, a tiny white fox, was perched on the edge with the best seat in the house. Was this the legendary perk of reincarnation? Starting a new life in the Scion's private spa? Selena didn't seem to notice my inner turmoil. She reached out a delicate finger and tapped the tip of my wet nose. Her voice was like cool chimes, laced with an unsettling tenderness. "Leo, what are you staring at?" Her lips parted, her breath a warm, fragrant cloud. "Don't you think the water is especially warm today?" I nodded instinctively, then shook my head frantically. "Lady, is this really the time to discuss water temperature? You're naked, and there's a male fox sitting right here. Okay, I'm a cub, but my soul is 28 years old. Could you show a little modesty?" Selena just smiled, a breathtaking sight like the first thaw of winter. She scooped up a handful of water and gently poured it over my white fur. There, don't be afraid," she murmured, but her eyes held a possessiveness that made my fur stand on end. "From now on, this is your home." "No, I am your home." She paused, her tongue darting out to catch a drop of water from the corner of her lip. In a dreamy whisper only I could hear, she added, "Can only be mine." In that instant, I saw it clearly in the depths of her cool eyes, a flash of terrifying, insane possessiveness. My entire body went rigid. This woman was not right. She wasn't some aloof goddess. She was unhinged. A beautiful, dangerous psycho. The system's alert chimed in at the worst possible moment. Warning. Anchor's possessiveness, emotion has peaked. Threat level, low. Please pacify immediately to prevent further escalation. Pacify? How the hell was I supposed to do that? I was a fox cub with the muscle mass of a wet napkin. Seeing the intensity in her eyes grow, my survival instincts kicked into overdrive. I shot out my tiny pink tongue and tentatively licked the fingertip she had touched me with. Then I nuzzled my fluffy head against her palm. I had no choice. It was humiliating, but being cute was my only weapon. Selena's body went still. The madness in her eyes receded, replaced by a wave of pure, overwhelming joy. She scooped me up from the edge of the tub and pulled me into a tight embrace, not caring that my wet fur was plastered against her bare skin. "Leo, you like me, don't you?" she sighed, pressing her cheek against the top of my head. "I knew it. I knew you were different. You won't betray me. You won't leave me. Not ever." Her voice grew softer, like a hypnotic suggestion she was giving to both me and herself. I was being squeezed so tight I could barely breathe, letting out pathetic little squeaks of protest. Ding! Anchor's emotional state has stabilized. Reward, 10 anchor points. Hearing the notification, I wanted to cry. This wasn't some heavenly new beginning. This was the opening scene of a top-tier psychological horror movie. My owner was a possessive psycho, and my life was held in her delicate hands. Hands that looked like they could snap my neck at any moment. How was I supposed to live like this? After the bath, Selena wrapped me in a huge, soft silk towel and meticulously dried my fur 3 times over. Her movements were impossibly gentle, as if she were handling a priceless artifact. She then placed me on a plush chaise lounge draped in white fur and slipped into a flowing, moon-white dress. The dress accentuated her graceful figure, making her look ethereal. Paired with her chillingly beautiful face, she looked like an angel who had just stepped out of a Renaissance painting. Who could guess that beneath that angelic exterior was a first-class nut job? I lay on the lounge, warily scanning my surroundings. The room was elegant to the point of absurdity, every detail whispering of understated luxury. The same faint, cool fragrance from the bathroom hung in the air. This had to be her private suite. As Ethelgard Scion, her residence, the Lenara Suite, was perched atop the Academy's highest peak, a place humming with latent energy. It was an entire penthouse to herself. Normally, besides 2 mute servants who handled cleaning, no one dared approach. Yet here I was a little fox, not just in her bedroom, but in her bathroom. The special treatment was off the charts. Selena sat down at a round mahogany table. Soon after, the mute servants entered silently, bearing trays of exquisite food. "Leo, come here." She beckoned to me. Her voice was still cool, but carried an undertone that wasn't a request. I hesitated. I was starving, but eating with a psycho who could snap at any second felt like sticking my head in a lion's mouth. HM, seeing I hadn't moved, her eyes narrowed, and a dangerous aura began to fill the room. Warning. Anchor's displeasure, emotion detected. Threat level, low. A jolt went through me. I didn't dare delay another second. I hopped off the lounge and trotted over to her feet, expertly nuzzling my head against the hem of her dress. You do what you have to do. Sucking up isn't so bad when your life's on the line. The dangerous glint in her eyes vanished. A satisfied smile touched her lips as she picked me up and placed me on the chair beside her. That's a good boy. She picked up a pair of ornate silver chopsticks, selected a piece of glistening, translucent meat that practically glowed with energy, blew on it carefully, and held it to my mouth. Try this. It's the tenderloin from a Tier 1 sun elk. It will help stabilize your core. I stared at the meat, my pride screaming in protest. Me, Leo, a full-grown man in spirit, being spoon-fed like a puppy? Where was my dignity? Warning. Anchor's emotional state. I snapped up the meat in one bite. Wow, that was delicious. What's dignity? Can you eat it? Compared to staying alive, it was nothing. Seeing me eat with gusto, Selena's mood visibly brightened. The smile in her eyes deepened as she fed me piece after piece, giving me more than she ate herself. Slow down. No one's going to take it from you, she said, her tone so doting it gave me goosebumps as she gently wiped a smudge from my muzzle with a silk napkin. I kept my head down, scarfing food while secretly observing her. She ate with an elegant grace, taking small bites as if she had no interest in the energy-infused delicacies. Most of the time, her gaze was fixed on me, intense and adoring, like an artist admiring their own perfect creation. It made me deeply uncomfortable. I didn't feel like a living creature. I felt like an object she had slapped a private property sticker on. The meal ended in a strangely harmonious silence. Selena didn't go to practice her abilities. Instead, she sat on a divan by the window, holding me and stroking my fur. Outside, a sea of clouds churned and graceful winged creatures soared past. A breathtaking view I was in no mood to appreciate. My life was completely at the mercy of this volatile woman. Leo, she said suddenly, her voice quiet. Did you know, in 100 years, you're the first one to eat a meal with me? My ears twitched. I looked up at her. They're all afraid of me, she said with a self-mocking smile tinged with loneliness. They call me the Academy's once-in-a-millennium prodigy, our great hope for the future. But they look at me like I'm a monster. Only you aren't afraid of me. She lowered her head, her forehead touching mine. I could feel the cool touch of her skin. So, you must never leave me, understand? Her voice was a whisper, but it held an unyielding, obsessive edge. Or I'll go insane. Warning. Anchors, paranoia, emotion has peaked. Threat level, medium. Pacify immediately. My heart clenched. Here we go again. This woman's mood swings were faster than flipping a page. I didn't dare hesitate. I lifted my 2 front paws and placed them gently on her cheeks. I looked at her with the most sincere, innocent expression I could muster and let out a soft, whimpering sound. For good measure, I leaned in and licked the tip of her nose. To hell with my pride. I needed to live. The combo move was a critical hit. The madness in Selena's eyes subsided. She took a deep breath and hugged me tighter, as if trying to merge me with her own body. Yes, that's it. Leo, you can only be good to me. Ding. Successful pacification. Reward, 20 anchor points. Current total, 30. Listening to the notification, I felt a fresh wave of despair. My life here was a constant, high-stakes tightrope walk over a pit of insanity. It looked like I needed to earn those points as fast as possible and figure out what this damn system could actually do for me. Otherwise, who knew when a cute trick would fail and this psycho would just snap my neck? The next few days were what I'd always dreamed of. A life of utter uselessness. A fox's life of uselessness, to be precise. I ate, I slept, and my only form of exercise was being held as a living teddy bear while Selena meditated. I had to admit, her unique scent was nice, and she was comfortable to be held by. If I could just ignore her occasional psycho episodes, this would be paradise. I'd started to figure out the rules of engagement. In short, always go with the flow. When she was happy, I'd act happy with her, trading cute antics for points. When her mood soured, I'd be the first to rush in, using every trick in the book to calm her down, trading cute antics for my life. After a few days, my anchor points had reached 80, just shy of the 100 needed to unlock the system's primary store. One afternoon, Selena took me for a walk by the Nexus spring behind her suite, as she often did. The spring was wreathed in shimmering energy, its water crystal clear, one of the Academy's prime power spots. Of course, Selena had declared it her private territory. No one else dared set foot here. I was basking on a sun-warmed stone, enjoying the rare moment of peace. Selena sat at the water's edge, her bare feet dangling in the clear spring, kicking up gentle ripples. It was a picture of perfect tranquility, but a dissonant voice shattered the peace. Well, Selena, enjoying the solitude, a young man in an expensive, tailored blazer, holding a ridiculously ornate-looking tablet, emerged from a nearby grove of birch trees. He was handsome enough, I guess, but he had an arrogant smirk that was instantly punchable. His name was Caleb Vance, grandson of the Academy's dean. He was powerful, one of the top students of his generation. More importantly, he was Selena's most obsessive admirer and, according to the memories I'd absorbed, a minor antagonist who constantly caused her trouble before she eventually, and brutally, dealt with him. The moment he appeared, Selena's soft expression turned to ice. Caleb, I recall saying that I don't appreciate visitors within a mile of my suite. Her voice was colder than the spring water. Caleb acted as if he hadn't heard her. Now, this is Ethelgard. It belongs to all of us. I was just passing by and thought I'd say hello. His eyes raked greedily over Selena's form before finally landing on me. When he saw me lounging comfortably beside her, a flicker of raw jealousy and contempt crossed his face. "Oh, what did you pick up a stray?" he asked, his tone mocking. "An animal like that, with no real power, is just a waste of your energy. Why don't I?" He never finished his sentence. A terrifying wave of pressure erupted from Selena. The very air seemed to crystallize. The ripples on the spring froze for a split second. Selena rose slowly to her feet. Her eyes were devoid of all emotion, filled only with a piercing cold. "Caleb, Vance." She spoke his name, syllable by syllable. Her voice was quiet, but it made Caleb's face drain of color. "What did you just say?" The sheer force of her presence made him stumble backward, sweat beading on his forehead. He couldn't understand why she was so furious over a stray animal. I didn't say anything." "Selena, don't misunderstand." He stammered. "You said he was an animal?" She advanced on him, each step seeming to land on his heart. Warning. Anchor's homicidal intent has spiked. Threat level high. Impending emotional collapse. Pacify immediately. The alarm in my head was deafening. I had no doubt that if I didn't do something, she would tear him apart right here. That would bring the Academy's leadership down on us, and it would be a huge mess. Yep, I made a split-second decision, leaping from a stone and darting to her side. I bit down on the hem of her dress and pulled backward with all my might. At the same time, I turned and gave Caleb a face full of bared teeth and low growls, putting on my best protective familiar act. My message was clear. I'll handle this idiot. You stay calm. Selena glanced down at me, and the murderous aura around her subsided slightly. I seized the opportunity, letting go of her dress and running right up to Caleb. I reared up on my hind legs, put my front paws on my hips, and unleashed a torrent of furious fox barks. Yap, yap, yap. Arf. GFFFFF. To Caleb, my actions were a blatant provocation. He was already terrified by Selena, and now he was being humiliated by a stray. His fear morphed into rage. "You little beast. You dare bark at me," he roared, raising a hand to swat me. But his hand never landed. Selena moved. No one saw how. One moment she was there, the next a white blur flashed past. She was suddenly in front of Caleb, one hand clamped around his throat. "You dare touch what is mine?" Her voice was a phantom whisper from the depths of a frozen hell. Caleb's face turned purple. His feet lifted off the ground as he struggled uselessly, his eyes wide with terror and disbelief. He was an adept tier student, yet in her hands, he was completely helpless. "He is not a beast." Selena held him by the neck, dragging him in front of me. She enunciated each word with chilling precision. "His name is Leo. He is my family, my one and only treasure. Anyone who touches a single hair on his head will die. Do you understand?" In that moment, looking at her cold, insane profile, only one thought crossed my mind. It's over. This woman is completely, utterly nuts. And I, apparently, was the fuse that lit the powder keg. Crack! A sickening crunch echoed in the quiet clearing. Caleb let out a choked gasp of pain as his right arm bent at an unnatural angle. Selena tossed him aside like a bag of trash, watching coldly as he twitched on the ground. "Get out," was all she said. Caleb scrambled to his feet, as if granted a pardon from the governor. He cradled his broken arm, shot one last venomous look at me, and fled into the woods without a backward glance. As his pathetic figure disappeared, the murderous light in Selena's eyes finally began to fade. She turned, rushed to my side, and knelt, scooping me carefully into her arms and checking me over with frantic intensity. "Leo, did he hurt you? It's all my fault. I shouldn't have let him get near you." Her voice was laced with fear and profound self-blame. I was speechless. "Lady, I'm fine. The dude with the broken arm is the one who got hurt here." But seeing her genuine panic, a strange, complex feeling washed over me. This woman might be crazy, but she was crazy for me. Ding! Anchor's emotion has transitioned from rage to fear and affection. Crisis averted. Special event reward. Plus 50 anchor points. Congratulations. Total points have reached 130. System store unlocked. Emotional Anchor System version 1.0 is now online. A cascade of notifications filled my head, and my spirits soared. Finally, my superpower was coming online. I immediately thought, open the system store. A holographic menu appeared in my mind's eye. It was simple with 3 options: physical enhancement, Fox form, cognitive awakening special ability. I tapped on physical enhancement. A list popped up. Razor claws. Basic strengthens your claws, increasing sharpness. Cost, 10 points. Swiftness. Basic increases movement speed and reaction time. Cost, 10 points. Reinforced skeleton. Basic strengthens your bones, increasing durability. Cost, 10 points. It was all basic stuff. Useful, but in a world where people could move mountains with their minds, it felt a little underwhelming. I opened Cognitive Awakening. Human speech, level 1, allows you to understand and speak simple human language, Fox form only. Cost, 50 points. Now this was good. Being able to talk meant communication would no longer be a problem. I could guide Selena's emotions better, maybe even feed her information to influence her decisions. A game changer. Finally, with a thumping heart, I opened the one I was most excited about. Special ability. There was only one option on the list, glowing with a golden light. Human form. Tier 1, consume all points to unlock a 15-minute temporary human form. Note, in this form, your power level will sync with your anchor, Selena Blackwood. You cannot use her specific techniques. Cooldown, 24 hours. Cost, 100 points. My breath caught in my throat. Become human, even for just 15 minutes. It meant I would have the ability to protect myself, maybe even fight, and my power level would sync with Selena's. She was a master tier powerhouse. That meant when I transformed, I'd be a master tier powerhouse too. Even with the limitations, this was by far the best and most life-altering ability available. With this, I was no longer just a pet who survived by being cute. Purchase. Purchase human form now. I screamed in my head. Ding. 100 points deducted. Congratulations on unlocking special ability, human form, tier 1. Remaining points, 30. A warm current spread through my body. I felt like something deep in my soul had just been activated. Yes, from this day forward, I had an ace up my sleeve. Leo, what's wrong? Selena's worried voice pulled me back to reality. I looked at her concerned face and suddenly thought that having a psycho for an owner wasn't so bad. After all, my powers were directly tied to her. If I wanted to get stronger, I just needed her to have more emotional meltdowns. A few more idiots like Caleb Vance would be perfect. With that in mind, I nuzzled my head under her chin, letting out a contented purr. It worked like a charm. A happy smile spread across her face as she held me and started walking back. Let's go home. I'll make you something special. But just as we reached the entrance to the Lenara suite, we saw a white-haired old man in the formal robes of an academy elder waiting for us, his face a thundercloud. It was the dean, Caleb Vance's grandfather. Seeing him, Selena's expression instantly turned cold again. Dean Vance, is there something you need? The dean snorted, pointing a trembling finger at Selena. Selena Blackwood, the audacity, attacking a fellow student on academy grounds. Do you have any respect for the rules? Behind him, Caleb glared at us, his broken arm now in a sling, his face a mask of resentment. He'd clearly run straight to Grandpa. Selena held me, her face impassive. He deserved it, she stated flatly. You. The dean's beard trembled with rage. You are incorrigible. Today, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of the academy. As he spoke, the terrifying pressure of an Archon tier master erupted from him, crashing down on Selena and me. The power was like a physical weight, a mountain pressing down on us. I felt my very soul tremble. My legs gave out, and I nearly passed out on the spot. So this was the power of a top-tier master? The sheer force of his presence could crush a small fry like me 1,000 times over. But Selena held me tighter, shielding me. She stood her ground, her white dress whipping in the turbulent energy. Her face was pale, but her eyes were still as cold and unyielding as a glacier. A faint golden light shimmered into existence around her, deflecting the dean's oppressive aura. Dean Vance, Selena said coolly, are you really going to attack me over a worthless excuse for a student? Insolence, the dean roared. A mere girl like you dares to speak to me with such disrespect. Caleb is my only grandson. You injured him, and you still spout such arrogance. Today, I will destroy that little beast of yours and confine you to the reflection chamber for a century. He raised a withered hand. A giant claw formed from pure energy materialized above us, screaming as it tore through the air, aimed directly at me. His target had been me all along. Killing intent flared in Selena's eyes. You dare, she yelled. She gently placed me on the ground. In a flash, an antique, sea-green sword appeared in her hand. With a cry, she shot upward, a streak of light meeting the energy claw head-on. Boom! The explosion sent a shockwave ripping through the courtyard, tearing up the flagstones. I was sent tumbling, rolling several times before I could stop. Ignoring the pain, I looked up. Selena and the dean were locked in combat. Flashes of sword light and palm strikes lit up the evening, each collision releasing devastating power. Even though Selena was only a master tier, her technique was exquisite, her combat prowess far beyond her level. For a moment, she actually fought the Archon tier dean to a standstill. Such a prodigy, the dean muttered, growing more alarmed with every passing moment. To have such power at your age. If I let you continue to grow, you'll be uncontrollable. A vicious light entered his eyes, and his attacks became more ferocious. Selena was, after all, a full tier below him. She slowly began to lose ground, and small cuts started appearing on her arms and face. This is bad. If this keeps up, she's going to lose, I thought, frantic. If she lost, we were both finished. What could I do? The system. System, is there anything that can help her? Ding. Anchor is in combat. Energy reserves are critically low, and her emotional state is highly unstable. Option 1. Expend 10 points to purchase a Tranquility Talisman, basic. It can briefly calm the Anchor's mind to prevent a berserker state. Option 2. Find an external high-energy source and channel it into the Anchor to replenish her power. The talisman was just a band-aid. It had to be option 2, a high-energy source. My eyes shot to the Nexus spring shimmering nearby. It was the most potent spot on the entire campus. That's it. Without a second's hesitation, I scrambled on my 4 little legs and bolted for the spring. Try to run, you little pest. Caleb, who had been watching from the sidelines, sneered and gave chase. He might have a broken arm, but he was still an adept, much faster than me in my current form. Just as he was about to catch me, I swerved sharply around a large boulder. Not expecting the move, Caleb ran face first into the rock with a loud thud. That bought me the time I needed. I launched myself into the air and plunged into the Nexus spring. Splash! The cool, incredibly pure energy of the spring enveloped me. A colossal amount of power surged through my body, a raging river flooding my senses. My body became a conduit. The energy flowed through me, and then, through the symbiotic link I shared with Selena, it poured directly into her. Selena, who had been struggling to hold her ground, suddenly felt a rush of pure energy replenishing her reserves. She glanced in my direction and saw me splashing in the spring. Understanding dawned on her face. Leo, a look of gratitude and resolve hardened her expression. Dean Vance, you forced my hand, she cried out, her power level surging once more. Replenished, she fought back with renewed vigor, actually managing to push the dean back. How is this possible? He exclaimed in disbelief. How is your energy endless? Just then, several powerful figures arrived on the scene. Stop this at once, a commanding voice boomed. A middle-aged man in regal purple robes appeared between the combatants. It was the Academy's president, Sterling. He was followed by several other elders. President Sterling. Dean Vance immediately backed off, playing the victim. You've come just in time. Selena Blackwood has no regard for the rules. She assaulted a student and then turned her sword on me. I ask you to uphold the Academy's laws. President Sterling frowned, taking in the destroyed courtyard, Selena's blood-streaked face, and finally, Caleb's broken arm. Selena, what happened here? Selena sheathed her sword and walked to the edge of the spring, pulling me out of the water. I was so full of energy, I felt like I was about to pop. She held me tight and, without offering any explanation, simply looked at the dean and said, "He tried to kill Leo, so I tried to kill him." Simple, direct, unapologetic. President Sterling's frown deepened. He sighed. "Dean Vance, there must be a misunderstanding. Selena is the future of this academy, as is Caleb. Let this matter rest. The academy will provide the best medicine for Caleb's injuries." He was clearly taking Selena's side, smoothing things over. The dean was trembling with fury, but didn't dare openly defy the president. He shot us a hateful glare before storming off with Caleb. The crisis was over. President Sterling approached Selena. "I know you prefer solitude, Selena, but we must try to maintain harmony among our students. Go and tend to your wounds." With that, he and the other elders departed. The moment they were gone, Selena's strength gave out. She coughed up a mouthful of blood, her face as white as a sheet. She had pushed herself too hard, fighting an Archon. The internal injuries were severe. She stumbled back to her suite, placed me on the lounge, and sat cross-legged, trying to meditate and heal. But her injuries were too grave. The energy in her body was a chaotic storm she couldn't control. She was on the verge of a catastrophic collapse. Panicked, I leaped in her lap, pressing my own body, still buzzing with the spring's energy, against her stomach. I focused, carefully guiding the power within me to soothe the raging storm inside her. Selena felt the gentle, pure energy flowing from me, and her body shuddered. She opened her eyes, looking at me with utter disbelief. "Leo, you..." I ignored her, concentrating on stabilizing her internal energy flow. Gradually, the violent storm subsided. She watched the little white fox in her lap, her expression a mixture of awe and profound tenderness. She closed her eyes again, holding me even tighter, and slipped into a deep healing trance. Under the moonlight, the girl and the fox formed a strange, harmonious picture. I didn't know it then, but after that night, my status in her heart had quietly been promoted from pet and treasure to something completely irreplaceable. After helping Selena stabilize, I was exhausted and fell asleep in her arms. I dreamed. I saw a little girl, no older than 6, locked in a cold, windowless stone room. She didn't cry. She just sat in a corner, hugging her knees, her eyes empty. Every day, a little food and water were dropped through a slot in the ceiling. Occasionally, a severe-looking man, her father, would enter, inspect her progress with the cold eyes of a commodities trader, and leave a vial of enhancement serum if she met her quota. If she didn't, he would whip her. She never fought back, never begged. Her only companion was a little white fox that had somehow found its way inside. She saved the best parts of her food for it, held it when she slept, and whispered secrets only they could share. It was the only speck of light in her gray childhood. But then, the man found the fox. In front of the little girl, he mercilessly snapped its neck. "Selena Blackwood, you must remember," the man said, his voice ice. "You are a prime conduit, the hope of our family. Your world has no room for sentiment. It is a weakness. From now on, your heart will hold nothing but power." The little girl stared at the fox's cooling body. For the first time, a fire ignited in her empty eyes. It was the fire of hatred. From that day on, her power grew at a terrifying rate. The scene shifted. Selena was a teenager, standing on the family estate's training grounds, sword in hand. Across from her stood her father, the powerful chairman of the Blackwood Corporation. "Insolent child, you dare draw your sword against your own father," he roared. Selena's face was a mask of ice. "You are not my father. You're a monster who treated me like a tool." That day, she defeated him, left her family, and walked away from the gilded cage that had suffocated her, enrolling in Ethelgard Academy. A soft whimper escaped my lips. I woke with a jolt, my fur damp with sweat. It wasn't a dream. Through our symbiotic link, I had seen her memories. I looked up at the beautiful, sleeping face of the girl, still deep in her healing trance. So that was the root of her obsession. A childhood of abuse, her only friend murdered before her eyes, and the ultimate betrayal by her family had twisted her mind. She wasn't cold by nature. She was terrified to feel anything. She wasn't possessive. She was terrified of loss. She treated me with such obsessive care because, in me, she saw the ghost of that little fox. I had become the sole anchor for all her repressed emotions. God, what a tragic life, I thought with a sigh. Just then, Selena's long lashes fluttered. She opened her eyes, her injuries mostly healed. Leo, you're awake? She smiled softly and reached out to stroke my head. This time, I didn't nuzzle her hand. Instead, I lifted a paw and gently patted her cheek, my eyes filled with a sympathy I hadn't realized I felt. Selena froze. She saw something in my gaze. You saw? She whispered, her voice trembling. I nodded slowly. Her body went rigid. A storm of emotions crossed her face. Shock, panic, the raw vulnerability of having her darkest secrets exposed. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She just pulled me into an embrace, her chin resting on my head, and held me in silence. I could feel a slight tremor in her arms. She was scared that now that I knew her bloody, traumatic past, I would see her as a monster, that I would leave her like everyone else. My heart softened. I leaned in and licked her chin, then buried my head deeper into the warmth of her chest, letting out a soft, reassuring purr. It's okay. I'm not going anywhere. The tension in her body slowly eased. She took a deep, shaky breath. Leo, she said, her voice hoarse. Thank you. Ding. Your bond with Selena Blackwood has deepened. Trust level has surpassed 50% for the first time. Special reward, plus 100 anchor points. Current total, 130 points. System note. Trust is a key metric influencing system functions. Please continue to strengthen your bond. I felt no joy at the system's reward. I just felt that the powerful woman holding me was, in fact, more in need of a hug than anyone I'd ever known. And I was the only one who could give her one. Just then, a respectful voice came from outside the door. Scion Blackwood, you have a visitor from your family. He says it's urgent. At the mention of her family, Selena's eyes, which had just softened, turned to chips of ice. A formidable aura radiated from her. I'm not seeing anyone, she said coldly. But, Scion, the visitor, it's your great-uncle. He says he has news about your mother. Selena's arms, holding me, tightened like a vice. In a formal reception hall of the Lenara suite, the air was thick with tension. Selena sat on the main chair, holding me, her expression unreadable as she stared at the sycophantic, gray-robed old man below. It was Marcus Blackwood, her great-uncle. Selena, my dear, it has been years. You look more radiant than ever. Truly the pride of the Blackwood family, he simpered. Selena didn't even look at him. State your business or get out. Marcus's smile froze for a second before he recovered. Now, is that any way to speak to your uncle? I know what your father did was wrong, but blood is thicker than water. We are still family. Family. Selena finally met his gaze, her eyes dripping with sarcasm. A family that treats me like an asset, a tool for its own advancement. Well, Marcus coughed, changing the subject. Let's not dwell on the past. I come with good news. We found your mother. Selena's hand, stroking my fur, clenched. I could feel the tsunami that single sentence created in her carefully controlled mind. Her mother was her one weakness. Years ago, her mother had been imprisoned by the family for trying to protect her. Her fate was unknown. It was the only reason Selena hadn't already wiped the Blackwoods from the face of the earth. Where is she? Selena's voice was tight, betraying a slight tremble. Seeing her reaction, a smug look flashed in Marcus's eyes. He had her. She's being held in the Soul Forge, bound by the family's malediction chains. You know what that place does? The toxic energy there can wither even an Archon to dust. She doesn't have much time. What do you want? Selena's voice was arctic. Simple, Marcus said, finally showing his hand. In 3 months, the Centurion trials will be held. If you can win a top 3 spot for the Blackwood family, securing us a place in the ancient vault, the family will release your mother. Selena laughed, a sound devoid of warmth, filled only with chilling, murderous intent. You want me to be your dog, and you're using my mother's life as a leash? That's not a fair way to put it. This is for your own good, too, Marcus said shamelessly. The vault only opens once a century. The opportunities inside would be a great boon for you. It's a win-win. Selena fell silent, staring at him as if he were already a corpse. Marcus pressed on, unnerved by her gaze. The family knows you're powerful, but the trials will feature prodigies from all over the continent. To ensure your success, we've prepared a special artifact to aid you. He produced a golden circlet from a dimensional pouch. This is a siphon ring, an ancient treasure. Wearing it will help you focus your energy and boost your power. He approached her, but as he did, his eyes darted toward me. When he was just a few feet away, he struck without warning. His target wasn't Selena. It was me. The golden ring shot from his hand like a bullet, a streak of light aimed straight for my neck. It happened so fast that even Selena was caught off guard. "You're dead," she roared, but she was holding me, unable to react in time. The siphon ring was about to close around me. I knew a small creature like me would be instantly obliterated by the volatile energy it contained. In that split second, I did something no one expected. I didn't dodge. I leaped from Selena's arms, straight toward the incoming ring, and in midair, my body exploded in a brilliant flash of white light. Special ability, human form, activate. The blinding light forced everyone to shut their eyes. When it faded where the small white fox had been, there now stood a young man in a simple white tunic. He had shaggy black hair, sharp features, and eyes that glittered like stars. An aura of power, identical to Selena's master tier level, rolled off him in waves. Leo was finally standing on my own 2 feet. I reached out and snatched the siphon ring out of the air just before it reached my head. The ring buzzed and struggled in my hand like a trapped hornet. What in the hell are you?" Marcus stared at me, his eyes practically bugging out of his head as if he'd seen a ghost. You were the fox. How can you be human?" I gave him a contemptuous smirk. "You want to hurt me, old man? You're not worthy." With a grunt, I clenched my fist. Crack! The so-called ancient treasure shattered into pieces in my hand. Golden fragments rained onto the floor. Marcus was dumbstruck, his mouth hanging open. On the main chair, Selena was in a similar state of shock. She stared at me, her cool, almond-shaped eyes wide with utter disbelief. "Leo," she stammered. I turned and gave her a reassuring smile. "I'm here." Then I faced Marcus, my expression turning to ice. "My owner is not someone you get to threaten." I started walking toward him, my master tier pressure locking onto him like a vice. "Today, you're going to learn what happens when you run your mouth. You stay away from me." Seeing me advance, Marcus panicked. He couldn't comprehend how a harmless-looking pet had suddenly transformed into a powerful master. "Monster! You're a monster!" he shrieked, turning to flee. Leaving so soon? Too late. I vanished, reappearing in front of him and planting my foot in his chest. Thump! He flew backward like a rag doll, slamming into a pillar and coughing up a spray of blood. He was only an adept. Against my sync power, he stood no chance. I stood over him, my eyes cold. "Talk. What is the Blackwood family's real plan?" I'd already figured it out. The siphon ring wasn't a booster. It was a parasitic device. It would slowly drain the wearer's life force and power, storing it as pure energy. Their plan wasn't for Selena to win. It was to turn her into a living power battery, to be consumed by some other family prodigy. What a venomous, despicable plan. I don't know what you're talking about." Marcus gasped. Still stubborn, my eyes flashed. I brought my foot down on his leg. Crunch! The sound of bones snapping echoed in the silent hall. Marcus screamed in agony. I'll talk. He spilled everything. It was just as I suspected. They knew Selena's power was growing exponentially. They wanted to harvest her prime conduit talent. The news about her mother was a lie to lure her in. The plan was to trick her into wearing the ring, let the trials drain her completely, and then have the family's hidden prodigy, a cousin named Damien, absorb her power and ascend. Behind me, I could hear Selena's body trembling with rage. Her beautiful eyes burned with a fury and a profound sadness I had never seen before. She couldn't believe her own family could be so monstrous. "The Blackwoods," she gritted out, each word laced with venom. I turned to her. "Let me handle this." I walked back to her side. "You?" She looked at me, her expression a whirlwind of confusion. "Who are you?" "My name is Leo," I said, meeting her gaze. "And I'm your Leo. That's all that matters, right?" Selena stared at me for a long moment, then slowly nodded. Yes, she accepted it. Just like that. Maybe in her twisted world, a fox turning into a man wasn't the craziest thing she'd seen. As long as I was hers, that was enough. Ding. Your identity shift has caused a massive emotional fluctuation in your anchor. Trust level has increased to 70%. Special reward. Plus 200 anchor points. Current total. 330. System store has been updated to version 2.0. I quickly opened the store. The offerings were new. Human speech. Level 2 allows you to speak fluently in human form. Cost. 100 points. Human form. Tier 2 extends temporary human form duration from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. Cost. 200 points. Storage space. Basic unlocks a 1 cubic meter personal storage dimension. Cost. 30 points. Without hesitation, I bought the upgrades for speech and human form. A powerful warmth flowed through me. I felt my control over this body strengthen, and the timer on my transformation extended. Just then, a wave of weakness washed over me. Time was almost up. I'm changing back, I told Selena. Remember, from now on, don't trust anyone. Except me. She nodded, her eyes fierce and determined. I smiled as the white light enveloped me again, and I landed softly back in her arms as a small fox. Selena looked down at me, her gaze filled with a new kind of gentleness and dependence. She stroked my fur, then looked at the whimpering Marcus on the floor, her eyes filled with disgust and murder. She stood up, walked over, and planted her foot on his face. Go back and tell Damien and the rest of those old bastards, she said, her voice like steel. In 3 months at the Centurion trials, I will be there, and I want them ready to die. After Marcus Blackwood fled, our relationship entered a new, delicate phase. By day, I was her ever-present fox familiar. By night, I would become human, and we would strategize in her private study for the upcoming trials. The Blackwoods are in league with some dark faction. I'm sure of it, she'd say, poring over maps of the continent's powers. Agreed, I'd reply, sitting across from her. We need to get stronger. One night, she looked at me, a rare blush coloring her cheeks. I read about an ancient technique, sync training. It's for a master and a familiar with a symbiotic link. If we train together, our power grows exponentially faster. My heart skipped a beat. Was she suggesting that? It was one thing to be her pet, another entirely to engage in something so intimate. What if she had a psycho episode mid-session and decided I tainted her? She saw my hesitation, and her expression fell. If you don't want to, forget I said anything. Warning, Anchor's emotional state is. I'm in, I said quickly. For our grand plan, of course. Her face lit up. That night, we tried it. When our palms touched, a warm current of energy began to flow between us in a perfect loop. It was a sublime feeling, a connection of not just power, but of souls. I could feel her loneliness and strength, and she, apparently, could feel my internal monologue. Leo, she said, opening her eyes, why are your thoughts so chaotic? I blushed, realizing she could read my mind during the process. To my surprise, a tiny, genuine smile touched her lips. It was the first time I'd ever seen her smile like that. Our nightly sessions became routine, and our power grew at a staggering rate. But our peace was interrupted when Dean Vance, still holding a grudge, reported Selena to President Sterling for having illicit meetings with an unknown man in her suite. In the president's office, Selena coolly denied it. There is no man in my suite. Only Leo. Lies. Dean Vance roared. I saw a young man in white with my own eyes. Oh, Selena's eyes narrowed. So you admit to spying on a female student's private quarters at night, Dean? The dean sputtered, enraged. President Sterling, looking exhausted, tried to compromise. Selena, to quell the rumors, just hand over the fox to the disciplinary committee for a few days. It was a trap, a way to get me alone. No, Selena said flatly. Leo is my bonded familiar. His life is my life. No one will touch him. Insolence, the dean bellowed, unleashing his Archon tier pressure. But this time, a flash of white light erupted, and I appeared in my human form, shielding her. The pressure washed over me, but I didn't budge. Getting repetitive with that trick, old man, I sneered. The entire room was stunned. He is Leo, Selena announced, stepping up to stand beside me. Her voice was firm. My familiar. And my consort. The word hung in the air. Even I was shocked. She looked at me, her face flushed but her gaze determined. She was drawing a line in the sand, telling the world that I was hers and untouchable. A warmth spread through my chest. I took her hand in mine. President, I said, my voice ringing with authority. The dean's grandson threatened my partner. I disciplined him. The dean then abused his power for a personal vendetta. I trust you'll see the truth. President Sterling looked at our joined hands, then at the dean's apoplectic face and sighed. Enough. This matter is closed. Back in the Lenara suite, the atmosphere was thick with a new, unspoken intimacy. I only said that because I had to, Selena mumbled, not looking at me. I smiled, stepping closer until I could feel the heat from her skin. But what if I want it to be true? I whispered. She froze, her face turning a shade of crimson I'd never seen before. She looked so flustered, so unlike the ice-cold Scion, that I couldn't resist. I leaned in and gently kissed her forehead. Then I transformed back into a fox and curled up on the lounge, leaving her standing there, stunned, for a very, very long time. The Centurion Trials. The city was a carnival of power and ambition. Selena, with me on her shoulder, was the main event. She dispatched every opponent with a single, contemptuous flick of her wrist, her power terrifying to behold. Finally, she faced Damian Blackwood. The stage had been set. The moment the match began, the entire arena floor lit up with blood-red runes, a forbidden soul siphon array. It was a trap designed to drain her life force. Feeling that, cousin? Damian gloated as Selena's strength began to fade. This array was made just for you. Once I absorb your prime, conduit energy, I'll ascend to the Archon tier. Below, the Blackwood Patriarch, Selena's father, smiled coldly. Just as all hope seemed lost, I chuckled. You think this cheap trap can hold us? I transformed, the brilliant white light stunning the crowd. You, Damian hissed. Ready? I asked Selena. She nodded, her eyes filled with absolute trust. I took her hand, our fingers lacing together. Let's show them what a real bond looks like. And I reversed the flow of our sync training. Instead of the array draining her, we began draining it. A vortex of power erupted from our joined hands, sucking the energy from the blood runes, from the arena, from Damian himself. No, impossible, he screamed as his power was ripped from him. Our own auras surged. Master, High Master, crack. A metaphysical barrier shattered within Selena. A terrifying pressure, far beyond the master level, exploded from her. She had broken through. She was now an Archon. She opened her eyes, her gaze divine and merciless. Game over. With a flick of her finger, she erased Damian Blackwood from existence. Then, we walked off the stage, straight to the Blackwood family's viewing box. Selena, I'm your father, her father screamed, scrambling backward in terror. My father died in a stone cell a long time ago, she replied, her voice empty. One swing of her sword, and the entire Blackwood legacy was turned to ash and memory. That night, we found her mother, frail but alive, in the deepest dungeon of the Blackwood estate. Seeing her mother, the unbreakable Selena, finally shattered, weeping in her arms. A lifetime of pain was finally washed away. Her mother recovered. The academy, under her leadership, flourished. The world settled into a peaceful rhythm. Selena, the terrifying psycho, slowly healed. She was still possessive, still mine and mine alone, but the madness was replaced by a deep, abiding love. One night, by the Nexus Spring, she asked me where I was really from. I told her everything. The other world, the burnout, the soul in the fox. She just smiled, stroking my face. I always knew you were different, Leo. Your mind is full of strange and wonderful things. It doesn't matter if you're a man, a fox, or a soul from another star. You are my Leo, and that's enough. I leaned in and kissed her, a kiss that held all the fear, desperation, and love of our shared journey. When we finally broke apart, she looked at me with a mischievous glint in her eyes. You know, she whispered, her breath warm against my ear as she led me into the shimmering water. The day I found you in my bathroom, I knew. I knew you would be mine. whether you were a fox or a man. I looked into her eyes and understood. It was never about control. It was about a love so fierce and broken it could only express itself as possession. And I was the only one who could ever understand it. I kissed her again, and as the moon hid behind the clouds, the water of the Nexus spring began to churn. 10 years later. Daddy, Mommy, look. A little girl with my eyes and her mother's smile ran toward us, chasing butterflies. I was in my fox form, letting her use me as a jungle gym. Selena, now the serene and respected president of the academy, watched us, her face glowing with a happiness that had once seemed impossible. The little girl tackled me, giggling. Giddy up, horsey. I galloped across the sun-drenched hill, her laughter echoing in the warm air. Selena walked over and knelt beside us, stroking my fur just as she had on that very first day. Leo, she murmured, her voice full of peace. I'm so glad I found you. I stopped and nuzzled her cheek. Me too. Under the setting sun, our little family was whole. A beautiful, crazy, perfect little family. My life hadn't started in a boardroom, or a hospital bed, or even a steamy bathroom. It started right here,